The air in the room was thick with the soft sounds of a family meal, the clink of silverware, the gentle creak of chairs as dishes were passed, and a kind of laughter that always seemed one note too high, too practiced. I sat near the table's end, as I usually did at these gatherings. My plate held more polite conversation than actual food. I listened, I nodded, and I smiled. Iris's voice, a polished blade, sliced through the chatter. "So, Leonard," she began, swirling wine, with the air of someone who considered herself effortlessly charming. "How does it feel, being useless?" She let the word hang in the air, then offered a wide, practiced smile, meant to rally support. It worked. Caden, my son, chuckled quietly. His sister-in-law gave a startled laugh before her eyes flicked toward me. Even my grandson, a high schooler, smirked before looking away. I said nothing. I placed my water glass down, my hand steady and slow. For the first time all afternoon, I looked directly at Iris. She had designer sunglasses perched on her head and wore a linen blouse I had paid for, though she had only assumed, never asked. Her laugh lines were faint. Her confidence was loud. I straightened my spine and kept my voice quiet. "How does it feel?" I asked, "knowing this useless one won't be paying your bills anymore?" The silence was immediate, sucking the breath from the room. Iris blinked, the smirk vanishing from her lips. Caden's fork froze in midair. This time, no one laughed. My words settled over the table like a heavy velvet cloth. I hadn't raised my voice. I didn't have to. I stood, the chair legs dragging across the hardwood with a sound of finality. I took my purse from the chair's back, gave a single nod to no one in particular, and walked out through the patio doors. Behind me, the table seemed to be holding its breath. Outside, the sunlight felt like an old friend on my face, and I realized I hadn't taken a full, deep breath in years. The locked drawer in my office was waiting. It began with a late mortgage payment. Caden had phoned one evening, his voice low and tangled with embarrassment. Iris had overspent again. The boutique wasn't performing as hoped, and the bank was sending letters. I wired them the money that night, $4,200. No judgment, no questions asked. I told myself I was helping them get back on their feet. Everyone needs a little grace sometimes. They never mentioned it again, not even to say thank you. A month later, it was the boutique's lease. Then a credit card payment Iris had forgotten. Then a deposit for my grandson's private school. Each request was urgent, quietly passed to me. I started keeping a record. It was a habit at first. I'd been an accountant my whole career. Numbers brought me calm. Order brought me reassurance. A spreadsheet began to grow on my computer, hidden in a locked folder. It held dates, amounts, and reasons, sometimes noting the receipts I'd requested but never received. The total grew alarmingly fast. I never showed it to them. They never asked. Dependable became my new job title. Not mother, not Leonard, just the one who kept things from collapsing. In the beginning, I believed it was love. Then I thought it was duty. Eventually, I stopped thinking about it at all. There was a moment, perhaps a year in, when Iris kissed my cheek after a dinner she hadn't paid for. "I don't know what we'd do without you," she'd said. It wasn't gratitude. It was a warning. I started printing the statements after that. Now, standing in the quiet of my own home, I walked to my office, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out the folder. The papers inside felt heavier than they should have. There was a small cabin near Lake Lure I often drove past, with white shutters and a screened porch nestled among pine trees. It was nothing extravagant, just a place of stillness. I had been saving for it for almost 5 years, a spot where I could wake to birdsong and coffee by the water. The down payment was nearly ready when Iris called with a vision. The boutique, she said, could expand with my help. She used words like legacy and family investment. Caden added, "We're so close, Mom. This could change everything for us." It was presented as an opportunity I couldn't miss. So I cashed out the fund and co-signed the loan, watching them print my name on paper as if it meant nothing. They never asked what I was sacrificing. I never told them. A year later, I was invited to a 3-week painting retreat in Taos. Sun, oil, and silence. I almost accepted. Then, Caden mentioned the rising cost of braces and their poor insurance coverage. I didn't wait for him to ask. I just made the transfer. The retreat brochure remained on my fridge until its edges curled. No one noticed when it disappeared. I don't know when the sacrifices stopped being occasional. They blurred together, becoming my new rhythm. I was the cushion, the fallback, the safety net. They flourished on the ground I had cleared for them, and they never once looked back. I flipped through the documents in the folder. Boutique receipts, tuition payments, loan papers with my signature cleanly inked at the bottom. I once had dreams, and I had traded them, one by one, for theirs. Iris never saw the cost, but I did. And I was done paying it. The request came right after dessert. As the others drifted to the patio, Iris motioned me to the kitchen. I recognized the look. She was always most polite just before an ask. Leaning against the counter, she said, "I wanted to talk to you about something exciting. The boutique's doing so well. I have an opportunity to lease the space next door. It would double our footprint, maybe a second line, homewares or skincare. It's the next big step." I waited, nodding slowly. "But the bank wants a cosigner," she added. "It's just a formality, 70,000. You know how this works better than anyone." She smiled as if it were a compliment. It would mean so much. I looked at her, the layers of her request as familiar as old wallpaper. I could already hear the silence that would follow a yes, the absence of thanks, the convenient forgetting. "I can't do that, Iris," I said evenly. She blinked, then laughed. "Why not? You're not exactly stretched thin. What do you even do all day?" Caden walked in just then, freezing, near the sink. He said nothing. I faced her fully. "I spend my days exactly as I wish, and I am not co-signing." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked to Caden, but he was busy drying a glass that was already clean. The silence stretched. I gave a faint smile and walked past them. No drama, just an answer that needed no repeating. Outside, the low sun was warm on my back. I walked through their gate without a goodbye and went home to unlock my drawer. The key was in its usual spot, inside an old sewing tin. My hands didn't shake. I slid the bottom drawer open, the metal rails groaning under the weight of a decade of receipts, transfers, and notarized statements. Every number belonged to me. Near the back lay the contract from 2017. Iris had been desperate. The boutique was failing, rent was overdue, and a supplier was threatening to sue. I remembered her call, her voice ragged with panic. Caden had already used up their savings. The bank had said no. I met her at a diner with the contract ready. I wouldn't risk $60,000 of my retirement without some security. She signed where I pointed, barely reading it, then slid the papers back with a relieved exhale. The critical line was clear. Win exchange for a financial bailout totaling $60,000. Leonard H. Halstead assumes 52% ownership of the Gilded Fern, effective immediately. It was legal, notarized, and quietly binding. She must have thought I'd forgotten, or that I'd never use it. For a while, she was right. I had convinced myself that silence meant keeping the family intact. But peace isn't built on denial. I put the contract in a new envelope. Tomorrow, it would no longer be hidden in a drawer. The moment I walked through their gate that afternoon, I knew something had shifted. Not in them, but in me. There had been no drama, just a quiet sentence that landed like a crack in glass. 3 days later, the knock came. Iris stood on my porch, arms folded, jaw tight. Caden looked tired, older. I opened the door wide. "Would you like some tea?" I asked, not to be gracious, but to be steady. "We're not here for tea," Iris snapped, walking into my living room uninvited. I went to the sideboard and picked up the envelope. I handed it to Caden. He opened it, his eyes moving slowly at first, then faster. The color drained from his face as he flipped through the wire transfers, the tuition receipts, the notarized contract. "Iris," he said, his voice tight, "did you sign this?" She barely glanced at it. That was years ago. She's twisting things. It's your signature, he said. And these numbers, they're real. Iris crossed her arms. She's using this to control us. I sat in the armchair across from them. No, I'm using it to stop being erased. Caden looked at me then, truly looked, the recognition dawning slowly. Iris refused to meet my gaze. I didn't ask for an apology. I knew none would come. But I had given them the folder. I had brought it all into the light. What happened next was not mine to carry. 2 days later, they came again. No knock, just the doorbell held down too long. This is ridiculous, Iris hissed as I opened the door. You're a parasite, clinging to something you never built. Caden stood behind her, looking weary. Mom, he said quietly, can we please just talk? This isn't worth destroying the family? He rubbed his hands together. Just sell your shares. We'll buy you out. No more conflict. I looked from one to the other. I didn't ask for ownership, Caden. I stepped in when no one else would. I funded, rescued, and let you both take the credit. I raised a hand before Iris could speak. I wasn't clinging. I was holding things together. I'm simply refusing to disappear now. I am not relinquishing my stake, I said. I'm not erasing my part to make you comfortable. The silence that followed was final. They turned and walked away. I closed the door gently. I had told them I wouldn't sell. Now I had to show them what that meant. The next afternoon, I went to their house, not to argue, but to be clear. I placed copies of the documents on the coffee table. These aren't threats, I said. They're records. I want to close the account. Iris let out a sharp laugh. You're not a hero. You're just bitter. I was the accountant, I said steadily. And now the account is closed. Caden looked up. What does that mean? It means I said that whatever you build from here is yours to carry? I won't fund it, fix it, or answer for it. No one stopped me as I stood and walked out, leaving the copies behind. 2 mornings later, a thick envelope arrived. It was a legal notice. A coercion, undue influence, it claimed, alleging I had manipulated a distressed Iris into signing away ownership. They wanted the shares returned, my name removed. I called my friend Blythe that night. She gave me a name, Margot Delaney, a retired litigator, still sharp as glass. Margot reviewed the contract, the bank statements, the emails. She nodded once. This is a bluff, she said. We'll end it cleanly. And we did. The hearing was over in 20 minutes. Their lawyer made a motion. Margot presented facts, dates, figures, signed forms, my transfer of funds. The judge, a woman with silver hair and tired eyes, looked over the papers, then at Iris. The evidence is unshakable, she said. Motion to dismiss is granted. Iris flinched at the gavel's sound. They left the courtroom without looking at me. Outside, Margot gave a nod. It's over. They can't touch your shares. I didn't feel triumphant, just a profound tiredness that comes when years of silence finally break. The quiet crept in over weeks. First, the texts stopped, then the phone calls. The silence didn't sting. It felt like cleared space. Without my monthly transfers, the boutique's shine began to dull. I heard from a friend that Iris had downsized and let go of staff. There were rumors of late rent. I didn't gloat. I didn't hope for failure, but I also didn't rescue. I had spent so long being useful. I'd forgotten what stillness felt like. Now, my mornings started with dirt under my nails. I learned to divide dahlias. I harvested rosemary for Pauline at the cafe next door. I painted, badly at first, then less so. I started losing time in it, a freedom I hadn't known in decades. Volunteering at a financial clinic gave my mind structure. I helped people who had never had a checking account, widows navigating online bills. No one sneered at what I did. They were just grateful. Then, the message came. Caden's name on my screen. Mom, we miss you. No punctuation, no details. It didn't say, I'm sorry or gee, understand. It said, Each you, Missy, if my absence were the only crime, as if distance, not dismissal, was the issue. I didn't reply. I didn't draft a response, didn't sit with the ache. I just deleted the message and turned my phone face down. Water was boiling for tea. A half-finished canvas waited in the sunroom. The hose lay coiled near the peonies, their edges starting to curl. I filled the watering can and stepped back into the garden. The life they had tried to make me feel small in was never mine. This one was, and it bloomed without permission.